Welcome to the channel where all you gotta do is use this contraption to measure your valve spring curve. So this here is a contraption of mine. There's a valve spring, a 462 valve, because that's what I got laying apart. But I'm gonna have to select springs for the V10 as well, because that's going turbocharged and need bigger springs when you go turbocharged. So this is a contraption that I came up with. It's nothing super fancy. You can buy these, but they're $1,000 or something. So this is just a load cell with a digital readout here. Set the spring on top of that guy. This is just a travel indicator. And what you do is set this at 0. When that thing starts not being 0, clear that. When that starts not being 0, I'm going to set this at 0, which is it's set. And then just kind of make sure it's somewhat centered. And there's 100,000, 16 pounds. 200,000, 32.7. 300,000, 49. I just write these down. Now this happens to be a beehive spring, so I don't know how well you can see it, but let me get you zoomed in over here. There we go. Got the gauge. We got that gauge over there. So that's 0. That's 100 thou, 200 thou, and you can look at this little teeny gauge here and see where you are. 300 thou. 400 thou. And you can see it's linear, right? Right now it's linear anyway. Every 100,000th it's about 15 pounds, right? 30, 48, 65, 83. So up to around there, it's fairly linear. But as you keep going, and I'll show you this on a graph as well. As you can see, these guys here are all in coil bind. So really we don't have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 coil spring anymore. We have a 4 or 5 coil spring. And then we're just close to coil bind. That's like an inch. Inch 25 is coil bind. So you got nothing between nothing. So now that's not an inch of lift, that's an inch of spring travel. There's going to be a installation height of this guy. Seat pressure is probably, 70 pounds, 80 pounds, something like that on this guy here. So it'll be somewhere in that range, which is, half an inch. So half of the travel of the spring is installed, right, to get some seat pressure, and then the rest of it's, I think this has valve lift around 500 thou, 500 or 550 if it's PI. So anyway, that's all it takes. This is just an arbor press, I think. I picked this up for 20 bucks, new, a long time ago. They're probably 50 now. And then this is just a load cell. You could use, there's some cheesy ones that are hydraulic, but this was, probably, you could probably pick this up today for under $100. And then this thing is not really very good. It was last calibrated in 1990. But for this, we're not looking at thousandths of an inch. We're looking at, close is close, right? Okay, so here's the spreadsheet that I put together. So let me start at the top here. This is the graph that I showed earlier. This is the free height of the spring. I measured 8 springs, and they ranged a little bit, plus or minus, 8 thousandths or something. I think the small one was 2054 and the biggest one's 2070. So plus minus 8. This is the installed height. This is the valve lift of the PI cam and rocker arm setup. And then the numbers that I got off of my spring calculator are right here. The spring rate, what I did is I just took the average of where it looked kind of linear. If you wanted to change that, like get rid of that one down there that's kind of a little bit more up. You could just change this to, changes a little bit. So that's the spring rate. And then if I look at this number, this is the total lift of the spring, which is just over an inch. This is the actual curve. So it's like, you know, right in here somewhere. So I just looked at that and said, it's about 185 pounds, maybe 187 pounds, whatever. I could write I could change this and make a parametric fit to this curve here, a polynomial fit to this curve here, and then poke in that number, and it would give me a thingy there, but not really worth it. The spring curve is going to be different. So every time you put a new spring curve in, you're going to have to put a new polynomial curve in. That's going to take more time than just looking at it and writing it down. So I kind of decided not to do that. So, and these are the spring rates. As they go along, right? They keep changing, but you can kind of look at this and go, between here and here, it's pretty linear. And the reason it's lower at the low lift is because the springs are square and ground on the ends, but they're not really perpendicular. So there's a little bit of the spring not being square on the ends that are kind of first couple 100,000s are kind of making those square. So anyway, this is, a useful program. You can throw get your new set of springs in, check a few of them, and make a graph for them. You could put other stuff in here, I suppose, if you wanted standard deviation and whatever. But this is kind of what you need. Measure all the free heights, get the average, whatever, or max and the min. You're kind of looking at your when you're setting up a head, you're looking at the minimum spring force and maximum spring force, and then you can always take the small springs, the short springs, and add a 10,000 shim or 20,000 shim or whatever you need to do to get them all the same. So it's pretty standard practice, I guess, because there's tolerance on parts. Everything isn't perfect, and that's what separates a really good engine builder from a mediocre engine builder or a shitty engine builder, right? You just throw it in there and hope it's good. And if it's not, then that's the customer's problem, not yours at that point, which pretty good way to get a bad reputation in engine building industry. So anyway, if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe and like and all the other fancy buttons you can push.